Hello everyone. I just wanted to share with you a home lab that I'm setting up. If you are, like myself, somebody who works in the IT field, then one of the best ways to Hello everyone. I just wanted to share with you a home lab that I'm currently setting up. If you are, like myself, somebody who works in the IT industry and want to enhance or improve your skills, then one of the best ways to do that is to work with physical equipment. So if you work with servers, then it's probably best to work with physical servers in your lab if that's where possible. If you work with networking gear and you're a networking engineer, then likewise, working with the physical equipment is the preferred choice for your lab where possible. Obviously, there are simulators and emulators that you can use for setting up a lab with, things like GNS3 or Packet Tracer here, if you're doing your studies such as your CCNA, for example, or if you're working on servers and with desktop machines or operating systems, you can also use virtualization technology like VMware Workstation to set yourself up a home lab on your PC if you've got a decent spec PC and you've got the resources there. However, I've decided to sort of set myself up a little home-based. Well, it's not little actually. It's quite big, if you like, a home-based lab. So, looking at this topology which I've just put together, you can see I've got a home internet router on the left-hand side here, and that's for me my external network. So that's connecting to a. Ignore the 2911 name there. My route is actually a 2611. So it's a fairly old router. You can get it quite cheap online on eBay and other platforms. So I've got a 2611, and that's connected to my uh, a home internet router. So that's my external network, and I've got a. I'll show you the configuration in a minute. I've got a default route, static route that points out to the internet router for me. And on the internal side, so on my lab, which is my internal network, I've got a, HP 2920 PoE switch, PoE plus switch, and I've also configured that uh, with the router. So I've basically got my VLANs that I've set up on the switch, so my internal VLANs. As you can see here, I've set up a router on a stick config. I'm running RIP version 2 um, as the network protocol between the two devices. And I've got uh, these VLANs currently on the switch, which are default VLAN, it's my 10.0.0 subnet /24. The IT VLAN, which is 10.10.0.0/24. HR VLAN, which is 10.20, and the finance VLAN, which is 10.30. So this is just to practice some networking on. On the router, I've created, if I just go to the configuration file for the router, if I can get that up. Oh, it's my Mac. Let's get this and go to the configuration. So I've just currently finished setting up the networking configuration. So I haven't started on the servers yet. So hopefully in the next video, I'll show you the configuration of the servers, where I'll be installing the vSphere ESXi 6.7. Sorry, not 6.7, version 7, which has just come out, which is the latest one. Once I do that, then we'll go on to also configuring the storage as well. So I might do that on one video, doing the servers and the storage. But right now I've just finished off the network side of things. So I just wanted to share the configuration with you. So the name of my router is Core 1. As you can see, I've got the Fast Ethernet interface 0/0, which links to Core 1. Basically, that goes out to my where are we here? So that shouldn't be Core 1. So Fast, that was actually misnamed. That's actually connecting to SW, which is the switch. So this is my internal network. There's no IP address on it because I've set up what you call sub-interfaces. So as you can see, 0.1 is my default VLAN. That's my VLAN 1, which is the 10.0.0.1, oh sorry, 10.0.0.0 subnet /24, and I've given it an IP address of .1. The IP address .2 is on the switch itself, which we'll see in a moment. So that's the first interface, and that's how my switch is basically communicating with my router. So it's sending through, the switch is using .1 as its default gateway. Now, on the second interface, which is .10, that's for VLAN 10, .20 for VLAN 20, .30 for VLAN 30, as you can see, which corresponds with these VLANs here. Because the route is fairly old, I wasn't able to set up switch virtual interfaces or SVIs, so I've decided to just set up the sub-interfaces for communication. If we go further down on the configuration file, ignore the serial interface, I'm not using that at the moment, so just ignore that. Fast Ethernet 1, which has the 192.168.2 IP address, that is connecting to my external network, meaning it's connected to my home router. So my home router is on .1 and my Cisco router is on .2. So I've also, as I said earlier on, running RIP version 2 on there, covering the 10.0 network as well as the 192.168 network, and we've got a neighbor of 10.0.0.2, which is the HP switch. I've set up a default gateway of 192.168.1.1, which is my home router. This takes me out to the internet, and I've also put in a static route for anything that is unknown. Basically, anything that you don't recognize, send it over to my home router for the internet. So, routes that my Cisco router doesn't have, it will send it to my home router. For example, anything heading out to the internet. And what else have I done here? So on here, I've set up some NAT. So as you can see, I've created a pool, and then also on that pool, I've created a standard access list, and I've permitted all of the 10.0 networks or all of the 10.0 subnets to be allowed to be natted. So I'm using port address translation, so natting anything coming from here to the 192.168 IP addresses. So my hosts, later on, any virtual machines I set up on the servers, for example, if I'm setting up a desktop, that will be on the HR VLAN or one that might be on the finance VLAN, so they can get out to the internet, and all my other subnets as well can get out to the internet. As you can see, as part of setting up the NAT, I've configured the sub interfaces on F0/0, Fast Ethernet 0/0, to be my inside interfaces. So I've put IPNAT inside on all of the sub interfaces, and on my F0/1, oh, here it is down here, I've set that up to be my outside interfaces, so IPNAT outside. So anything coming from my internal network, once it hits the router, it will be natted to the IP addresses on my home network, which will then allow my hosts and my servers to get out to the internet. So that's the configuration of the core switch. I'll just quickly or slowly just go down so you can see, just in case you want to configure something like this yourself. It's fairly straightforward, nothing too complicated. There we are, and that's it. That's just for console sessions and connecting at the bottom line, just down there. Yeah, so that's the switch configuration. Sorry, this router configuration. In terms of the switch, the HP switch, the configuration is here. So that's the name, switch 2. It's got a default gateway of 10.0.0.1, which is the which is the interface on the router. And what else have we got here? We've got RIP running, as you can see. The default VLAN is the only one with the IP address on it. So 10.0.0.2 is the interface of the switch, the HP switch, or I guess the default switch virtual interface, or for VLAN 1, the default VLAN. And then I've got 3 VLANs here. So I've got IT, and I've tagged them on all these ports, as well as VLAN 20 and VLAN 30 here, respectively. So that's a very, very straightforward configuration. It's just to allow me to be able to sort of play around with, once I've created my VMs, I've configured it, sort of image the servers, I've put ESXi 7 on there. It will then allow me to sort of create virtual machines and put those virtual machines on these respective VLANs. So they're on the servers, the connections to the servers, the VLANs will be tagged and coming through. So therefore, once I've tagged the VLANs and they're coming through, I can put any of my virtual machines on these specific VLANs, and then that will allow them to sort of get out and communicate with each other, as well as communicate on the internet. So if I go over to my switches, so here I've got, we're on switch 2, SW2, which is this one that we were just looking at in terms of the configuration. So for example, if I just to show you the connectivity, so if I do a ping to 192.168.1.1, which is, let's bring this over here, which is from this switch to my default gateway for my access to the internet, my home router. If I ping that, yep, that's alive. If I ping, so I can get from here all the way out, that's great. But can I get out to the internet? Let's do a ping to Google's DNS servers, which is 8.8.8. Let's ping that. Oh, unreachable. Okay, looks like the switch can't get to that. Let me see if I can get to that from the core. No problem. No need to get to there from the switch. That shouldn't really be a problem. If I go to Telnet and I connect over to my router, here we are. Oh, Telnet 10.0.1. Right? Yes, so here we are. Connect to that. Enable. Connect to that. Let's see if I can ping the internet from here. So 8.8.8.8. Yes, right, so that's fine. Ignore the last bit. The switch shouldn't be able to get to there anyway. No problem. We don't need it to get to there. As long as we can get from our router here out to the internet, then that's absolutely fine. So what's happening is hosts will basically be on the respective VLANs. They will send their requests out. They'll get NATed. Once they get NATed, it gets sent out to the internet, and that gets sent back. And it's using port address translation. So that's all good. So that's just the switch and router setup. That's just the network that I've been sort of simple network configuration that I've set up. Oh, let's just save that. And in terms of the servers, so I've got 2 Dell R720 servers, which will be server 1 and 2, and I'm going to put ESXi 7 on both of them, and that will allow me to then put vCenter, a vCenter server virtual machine, and run VMs on there. I can then do nested virtualization if I want, and run Microsoft Hyper-V on there, and so forth. Yeah, so the 2 servers, they're rack servers. I'll hopefully show you pictures of those at some point once we get to the server setup. They've got 128 gig RAM each. It's quite more than sufficient. You could get away with this on VMware Workstation if you've got around about 32 gigabytes on your PC. So if you have a desktop with around about 32 gigabytes, you could do something similar to this without having to get physical servers. But as I said, it's always best if where you can to use physical equipment, because that's what you'll be using in the real world. And on top of the 2 servers, I've got 3 QNAP servers which I'll be using for storage. So I'll be connecting both of these ESXi hosts to these storage servers, and they'll be obviously using them for storing the virtual machines and virtual machine disks and configuration files and so forth. So yeah, that's the setup. I believe 2 of them are 10 terabytes. I'm not. Once we get to them, we'll see exactly how much it is, but I think 2 of them are 10 terabytes each, and one of them is around about 20 terabytes. We'll confirm that once I start the setup, but we'll go through that together as well. So hopefully you'll see a video of me setting these up too. So I'll try and record the imaging and setting up of ESXi, installing ESXi 7 on these servers, and then configuring these storage devices and so forth, doing the whole configuration. But yeah, that's just something I want to share with you guys. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you want to see anything, if you want to see me doing anything in particular in terms of the setup, or if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section. And likewise, please like, subscribe, and share. And hopefully, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks.